All right, picture the scene. It's the morning of March 15th, 44 BC. The air in Rome is thick with the scent of wood smoke, wet stone, and that sort of metallic tang from the Tiber River. Julius Caesar, the dictator of the Roman Republic, is walking toward the theater of Pompey. He's 56, he's battle-hardened, but right now, he's dizzy. He's actually suffering from tremors, what his physicians call the falling sickness. So as he climbs these stone steps, an anxious crowd is pressing in all around him. Suddenly, a desperate Greek teacher named Artemidorus pushes his way through the mob, clutching this tightly wound papyrus. He thrusts it forward and pleads, "Read this, Caesar. Read this alone, and quickly. It contains matters of life and death to you."
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is arguably one of the most mind-bending what-if scenarios in human history. We're going to explore the ultimate butterfly effect based on some truly incredible historical analysis. Now, in reality, we all know what happened. Caesar took that scroll, got distracted, never read it, and literally carried his own death warrant into the Senate. But what if a sudden spasm of dizziness forced him to pause? What if, just to steady himself and catch his breath, he unrolled that papyrus right there on the steps? As you'll see, that single micro-moment of reading a scroll completely fast-forwards human technological progress by a millennium.
Okay, let's dive into this timeline. At the top, you've got our actual history. Caesar ignores the scroll, he's assassinated, and Rome plunges into decades of absolutely devastating civil war. But look at the bottom track, the alternate timeline. This is the exact micro-moment the timeline splits. Caesar reads the scroll, survives 44 BC, and ends up dying peacefully decades later. And this kicks off a massive chain reaction, leading to early industrial mechanization by 150 AD, and a highly advanced global commonwealth by 500 AD. We're shifting from a bloody assassination to calculated survival, and it completely rewrites the entire macro-level fate of humanity.
Act 1. The Silent Purge.
So the vertigo just vanishes the second his eyes hit that neat Greek script. Caesar, beware of Brutus, take heed of Cassius. The names of his absolute closest allies, men he had personally pardoned, are staring right back at him. And the dizzy, sick older man is instantly replaced by the cold, calculating general who crossed the Rubicon. He doesn't panic. Actually, he just simply turns to his co-consul Mark Antony and his master of the horse. With his dangerous quietness, he orders his German guard brought from the Forum. He tells them to bar the doors of the theater of Pompey from the outside. The conspirators are entirely trapped. No grandstand. Decimus, Brutus, and Cassius are disarmed inside without a single drop of blood spilled on the statue of Pompey. Caesar realizes right then and there that his policy of forgiveness was a fatal error. But he doesn't execute them, which is smart, because that would make them martyrs and ignite riots. Instead, he holds swift, closed-door trials. He strips Brutus and Cassius of their elite patrician status and banishes them to the absolute freezing edges of the Republic. Brutus to the Black Sea, Cassius to the Syrian border, under heavy military guard. Just like that, the threat is neutralized silently.
To make absolutely sure this never happens again, Caesar systematically dismantles the old aristocratic power structure. 1,000, that's the key number here. He expands the Senate to 1,000 members. But he doesn't just fill those new seats with wealthy Romans who secretly hate him. No way. He fills them with loyal provincial elites from Gaul, Spain, and Cisalpine Italy. Suddenly, the Senate actually reflects the geography of the territories Rome governs. Rome basically stops acting like a greedy little city-state and starts functioning as a truly unified Mediterranean state.
Act 2. The Parthian Crusade.
Now, what's really interesting about this transition is how, with the domestic third crushed, the timeline leaps ahead to the spring of 43 BC. Caesar's political reforms are completely secure, his 18-year-old heir Octavian is safely apprenticing under him back in Rome, and Caesar embarks on the grand military campaign he'd been planning for years, invading the powerful Parthian Empire in the east. Look at how Caesar's brilliant scientific mind contrasts with the catastrophic failure of his predecessor, Crassus. 10 years earlier, Crassus basically marched thirsty Roman infantry directly into the open desert and got completely annihilated by Parthian horse archers. Caesar avoids this entirely through a literal obsession with logistics. He doesn't march into the desert at all. He moves his 16 legions down the Euphrates River using this massive flotilla of flat-bottomed supply barges, endless fresh water, endless grain. And knowing Roman infantry is vulnerable out there, he secures 10,000 Armenian horsemen and specialized long-range Cretan archers before the first arrow is even fired.
When the armies finally clash near Seleucia, the Parthians try their exact same circling tactics. But Caesar unleashes this incredible tactical innovation. The Roman legions instantly snap into the testudo, the tortoise formation, creating this impenetrable wooden roof of locked shields.
And from behind that massive wall, Caesar's light auxiliaries return fire, and he deploys mobile field artillery. We're talking compact scorpions and ballistas unleashing high-velocity, armor-piercing bolts that completely shatter the heavy Parthian armored cavalry, the cataphracts, from over 300 yards away. The Parthian lines absolutely break. By 41 BC, Caesar captures their capital, establishes pro-Roman client kings, and secures the eastern frontier forever.
Moving on to Act 3, the Age of Engineering.
So, by 39 BC, Caesar returns to Rome with unimaginable wealth plundered from the east. And with the empire totally secure, he pivots entirely from military conquest to massive, empire-altering civil engineering and scientific projects. First up, an incredibly deadly problem in the capital, malaria, which they called Roman fever. Every single summer, it swept through Rome from the stagnant Pontine marshes. Caesar tasks his engineers to methodically survey the area using chorobates, these ancient water levels. They dig deep river canals, methodically draining over 200 square miles of standing water, and convert the whole shebang into highly fertile farmland for retired soldiers. The mosquito populations absolutely plummet, saving countless lives and completely securing Rome's food supply.
The domestic boom that follows is just fast-paced and sweeping. Caesar mobilizes 20,000 workers to literally carve the Corinth Canal through solid limestone. And because they obviously don't have gunpowder, they use this brilliant technique called thermal fracturing, heating the rock with massive fires and then drenching it in cold vinegar to crack it open. He also rolls out the Lex Julia, standardizing what was a previously chaotic legal code for all citizens across the empire. Recognizing the sheer power of knowledge, he funds the Great Library of Rome on the Aventine Hill and establishes the Imperial Academy of Sciences, led by the brilliant astronomer Sosigenes. Science is now completely funded by the state.
Act 4. A peaceful succession.
Let's slow things down for a second. By 32 BC, a 72-year-old Caesar is really feeling his end approaching. His hair is white, his physical health is declining, and his seizures are becoming much more frequent. But he is resting upon a brilliantly structured administrative machine. Octavian is serving as the administrative brain, managing the treasury in Rome. Mark Antony is out east keeping the borders secure, and Cleopatra rules Egypt as Rome's primary economic partner. Caesar summons the young Octavian to his villa in Campania to pass down his dying advice. He tells him, "The Republic is a body with many limbs. A single heart cannot pump blood to them all unless the vessels are clear. Do not seek to be a god. Be the first citizen who keeps the machinery oiled." It's just a profound realization of statecraft over ego.
So the crucial point here is that on August 19, 30 BC, Julius Caesar actually dies peacefully in his sleep at the age of 74. There are no riots, there are no funeral pyres lit by angry mobs. The Senate immediately confirms Octavian as the first citizen. Octavian inherits a completely full treasury, a functioning administration, and fully secure borders. He completely 100% bypasses the decade of devastating civil wars that decimated the Roman population in our real history.
Act 5. The long-term legacy.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the survival of one man rewrites the macro-level fate of humanity. By preventing the civil wars and stabilizing the empire constitutionally, the butterfly effect starts to escalate on a massive global scale. Just look at this comparative analysis. In our real timeline, constant civil wars destroyed intellectual hubs, leading straight to the 3rd century crisis and eventually the fall of Rome. But in this alternative timeline, the unbroken peace and state patronage of the Imperial Academy mean ancient knowledge is never lost. The brilliant works of scholars like Archimedes and Eratosthenes are systematically preserved and copied. They're kept in active circulation across libraries from Carthage all the way to Antioch, rather than relying on the sheer luck of monastic copyists centuries later.
Now, this leads us to what is probably the most staggering outcome of all, an early industrial revolution. Did you know the ancient Romans actually possessed theoretical steam power? It's true. It was called the Aeolia pile. But historically, they had no reason to use it because they relied on cheap slave labor. In this timeline, however, Caesar's massive stable borders create a chronic labor shortage at the frontiers. This economic incentive actually drives Roman engineers by 150 AD to adapt that theoretical steam engine to pump water out of deep silver mines in Spain and tin mines in Cornwall. They transition into an early mechanized industrial economy literally centuries ahead of schedule.
By 500 AD, the world is unrecognizable from our history books. There are no Dark Ages, there is no fractured agrarian Europe. Instead, a highly literate, technologically advanced Afro-Eurasian Roman Commonwealth spans all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Persian Gulf. They've established permanent, highly secure maritime trade routes across the Indian Ocean, trading Roman glass and silver directly for Chinese silk and Indian spices. It is a highly integrated, completely globalized economy.
Epilogue: The View from the Aventine.
Let's paint a final, really vivid sensory picture of what this world looks like. It's the year 200 AD. A young scholar named Lucius is sitting in the courtyard of the Great Library of Rome on the Aventine Hill. The air around him is incredibly clean, totally free of those ancient marsh smells, because Caesar's canal networks are still functioning perfectly. High above him, a massive, water-powered mechanical clock chimes the hour. Lucius opens a beautifully preserved, mechanically printed calfskin book. On the very first page is a rendering of an old man with a laurel wreath, firmly holding a papyrus scroll in his hand. The inscription underneath ties this massive, technologically advanced global outcome back to that one singular human moment. It reads, Gaius Julius Caesar, Pater Patriae, Father of the Nation. He who read the scroll saved the Republic and built the world.
It is just amazing to think about how fragile the timeline of human progress really is, isn't it? A moment of dizziness, a brief pause on marble steps, reading a piece of paper instead of ignoring it. It completely challenges us to look at our own lives and our modern world. So I'm going to leave you with this thought to consider. What seemingly insignificant scroll are we ignoring today, right now, that could rewrite the next 1,000 years of human history? Keep your eyes open and never stop questioning those small moments.
Please like and subscribe.